Welcome, everybody. It's time once again. Grab your board, catch a wave, and ride the sales pipeline with your host, Matt Hines from Hines Marketing. Hey, Matt.
How we doing, Paul?
I'm doing good today. What's on the docket for today's show?
Oh, my goodness. It's so much fun to be back in the studio. And when I say studio, what I really mean is sitting at my desk here.
The World Command Headquarters for Hines Marketing here.
Yeah, no, it's been a busy summer. We've been out and about quite a bit, but we've been able to maintain our regular sessions here at Sales Pipeline Radio. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us if you're listening to us live on the radio, and if you're listening to us through our podcasts at Google Play and iTunes Store, welcome. And if you're listening to us on demand from the archive, our library of all of our shows at salespipelineradio.com, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. I think you're going to find today's episodes pretty fun. I will tell you, Paul, that I'm very proud of my setup here. I've got my cool Sennheiser headphones. I've got my blue Yeti Blue, not only the microphone but also the little spit guard or whatever you call this thing here. But so last week I was at Content Marketing World in Cleveland, and I recorded a podcast with a gentleman who does a enterprise marketing consulting business, and I felt like I was in a live radio studio. I mean, we were on both sides of the table. He had the big microphones with the arms. He had this whole console in front of him to master the sound. I'm sure it looks like you've got some of that there in the studio.
All of that. We got all of this here. We have to get you to come down and do a live show here from our big studio here.
No, I think I'm a gadget junkie. I just want to buy it and have it here. Just use it. If my wife will like, because it'll encourage me to stay in the office so I can do these here. All right. Well, enough about that. I'm really excited. These episodes go by so fast, and I want to make sure we get plenty of time for our guest today. We're so excited to finally have on the show got Arden Kleiss, who is the author of a new book, Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth. Arden, I've known for years now, based up here in Seattle, and she is an etiquette consultant, and with a specific focus on business etiquette, which when I first heard that, I'm like, never heard of one of those before. And the more I read her stuff, the more I learn from her, the more I realize just how important it is, especially in today's more casual and therefore more complicated, as far as I'm concerned, business environment. So Arden, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Hey, let me start with. We can talk about your background. You've got a fun story of sort of growing up and just really disliking manners and thinking it was a bunch of just silly rules, and then getting your first business dinner, I think it was, and realizing, boy, those actually come in fairly handy. But you don't really see a lot of etiquette consultants. So what exactly does a business etiquette consultant do?
I know it does seem sort of like a rare profession, but it's amazing how many of us are actually out there. I teach professionals from executives to frontline staff how to confidently and comfortably navigate business situations and be more polished for career and social success. So let me give you an example. Through corporate trainings or coaching, I work with people on how to be professional, let's say on email or phone, or how to conduct a business meal with an important client, or how to tell someone they have spinach in their teeth. So it's basically those little rules and guidelines for how to present ourselves in the business world.
I agree with you that etiquette's incredibly important, and I think it almost is more complicated today because things have gotten more casual, but not always more casual, right? We're based here in Seattle, and I can walk into almost any meetings in jeans and a nice shirt, and I'm dressed plenty well. If I wear nice jeans, a button-up shirt, and a sport coat into a meeting on the East Coast, I might by far be the least dressed person. So how do you sort of do that in today's world? How do you sort of know where the ground rules are and where to get started?
Well, you can consult books. That helps a lot. A lot of it, too, is checking in with the people that you're meeting with or finding out, looking at your contacts. In the case of attire, we have to make certain assumptions that certain parts of the country are a little bit more formal. So as you experience, the East Coast is more formal, and jeans probably would not fly. Anytime you're meeting internationally, you definitely need to dress up. So there are some of those basic rules in my book, and I'm sure in other etiquette books as well. But, yeah, sometimes if you don't know those things, you have to just observe and watch and see, or, consult with an etiquette consultant.
That's right. We're talking with Arden Kleiss, who is the author of the new book, Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth, which is available on Amazon.com. And I got to tell you, this was such a good book for me to read. I love the title, first of all. But it's some of the things that you read about etiquette, some of them are really common sense. But just because something is common sense doesn't mean we actually follow it. So what are a couple things that can kind of whet people's appetite about the book that you think are fundamental for, our listeners tend to be more on the sales and marketing side, but just in general for people that are in business, what are some of those common sense things that we either forget, have forgotten, or are particularly important to remember and to execute in today's business world?
Sure. Well, I think one of the biggest ones right now is probably the most controversial too, and that is when it's appropriate to use your phone or your digital device. Especially in this really mixed generational time when a lot of boomers are really bothered by people pulling out their phones in a meeting and, looking at it and responding to texts or emails or whatever. So really the rule is to start by not using your phone in a meeting. And actually, I think it's really, if you're a salesperson, you're conducting a meeting, I would actually say to the group you're meeting with, hey, phone's on, or, digital device is okay or not okay. Mm-hmm. So everyone's on the same page, and you're not using your phone and others are staring at you thinking, what an idiot, or how rude, or vice versa. So sort of tempering it based on the group. But I think as a general rule, stay away from pulling your phone out when you're meeting with people, because it just signals to them that phone is more important than the person in front of you.
Let's talk a little more about devices, because I would agree with you on the phone. Like it's we all just it's a nervous tick for some people, mm-hmm. but there's others that use their phone or use their laptops as a note taking device. They're sitting in a meeting and they want to use a laptop or a tablet or sometimes a phone to take notes and to record what's going on in the meeting. I'll tell you, look, if you see me in a meeting, you know that I'm guilty of doing that as well. But I've been trying to shy away from it. Because I've come to believe that when I write stuff down with pen and paper, I remember it better. But also because if I don't have a computer in front of me, I give the impression that I'm more engaged in the meeting. Can you talk a little bit about sort of what are the dynamics and psychology behind that, and what are your recommendations on how to manage that?
Yeah, well, I think Matt, it's really cool that you've discovered that you're actually able to be more engaged by using pen and paper, and that it helps you to remember things better. If someone is really opposed to writing things down, pen and paper, then sort of saying in the beginning of the meeting, hey, just want you to know I'm going to be taking notes on my laptop. I'm not checking my email, and don't check your email. And just take notes. But you've brought up a really good point, and I do want to mention this. That is that when you are using a laptop or a tablet or whatever to take notes, or you're looking at your phone for information, even if it's related to the meeting, you're not able to be as present. So you miss some of those nonverbal cues, and it's a myth that we can multitask. So you're also not able to always hear what's being said, and so you can't be as fully present. And sometimes being able to see some of those nonverbal cues, or the way someone, sort of under the breath says something, it's really important that you catch those, especially as a salesperson. So I would say, I love the idea of pen and paper. I really do. So kudos to you for doing that.
Oh, well, look, the idea is great. I mean, actually following through on that sometimes is a lot more difficult, and even my handwriting is terrible. So, literally, I'm staring at some notes I took from a meeting, a phone call that I had before the show today, and I'm like, some of that I can't even recognize. If I had typed it, might have been better. But there's something when you're in those meetings about the perception. Read it. Yeah, well, there's the perception, right? I mean, I think even if you're better at one thing, people are going to perceive that you're not as engaged, and that can make a difference. Talk a little bit about what that means then if you are on the phone. And a lot of people listening to this show are either in or managing or working with inside sales teams where you're not in front of someone, what you're doing physically is not immediately present to them. But, how much of this is important when you're on the phone both in terms of sort of your ability to focus on the conversation, but also what are some of the key sort of reminders from an etiquette standpoint for someone who's in more of an inside phone-based sales role?
Yeah, so a few things. First of all, one of the things that's really helpful, and that's going to sound so corny, but our tone is so important when we're on the phone because we don't have body language to communicate meaning. And so being able to have a warmer tone in your voice really helps. And one of the ways you can do that is by smiling. So when we smile, it immediately puts warmth in our voice. Again, sounds total corny, but it really does make a difference. One thing that is really useful is, or that I'm going to tell you not to do. I've had salespeople do this to me, and it immediately says to me, salesperson. And that is saying my name like every few seconds.
Yes.
So, Arden, I want to talk to you about this, blah, 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 and Arden, blah, blah, blah. And I cringe. So it's really great to use a client or a prospect's name maybe 2, 3 at the most times in a conversation, because it shows that, you're engaged with them, you know their name, and people love hearing their name, but not every few seconds. So that's one that I would say avoid. Another one, and this is hard when you're on the phone, is interrupting people, because again, you don't have that body language to be able to see when someone's wrapping up. So you almost have to slow down a little bit and give someone a few extra seconds, even if it's milliseconds, to sort of end before then you jump in.
I totally agree, and thank you so much for bringing up that issue of people mentioning the first name. I think doing it once or twice is one thing, but I think we've all had experience with folks that do it just multiple times, and it just I think it gets a little creepy sometimes. We're talking today with Arden Kleiss. You can find out more about her overall, her website at KleissEtiquette.com. I highly recommend you check that out. I mean, you can sign up for her Business Etiquette Tips newsletter. She does everything from one-on-one coaching to team and management training. I think you also offer manners classes and camps for children and teens, which I think is just awesome. And definitely take advantage of her new book called Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth, Essential Etiquette for Professional services. And we're going to talk a lot more with Arden after we get back from our break. We're going to talk about the book. We're going to talk about specific etiquette when you're out and about, networking, dining, drinking, lots of things that we're all doing today in business. There's a right way and a wrong way, and the way you're perceived, as I think it was Warren Buffett once said, you spend years and years building a reputation. It takes just a couple minutes to ruin it. We'll be back with Arden in just a couple minutes. Sales Pipeline Radio.
In a world where the speed of innovation and change in B2B marketing has never been greater, the only thing bigger is the need for clarity, for a blueprint, for a guide to what's really working. And how about a way to apply it specifically today to increase sales pipeline growth, velocity, and most of all, conversion? That's what you'll find in the Modern Marketer's Field Guide. And amazingly, you can download it for free. HeinzMarketing.com, just like it sounds, HeinzMarketing. It encompasses the entire sales and marketing cycle, but in quick bursts with lots of specific, actionable ideas, strategies, tactics you can put to work right away, like today. The loaded table of contents helps you narrow in and tackle a problem. And it's something you can come back to over and over again as a reference guide. Why not download your free copy of the Modern Marketer's Field Guide? It's free. HeinzMarketing.com, just like it sounds. HEINZ Marketing.com.
Whether you're producing a seminar series, users conference, lunch and learn, or exhibiting at a trade show, Validar has a solution. From capturing leads at trade shows to managing on-site registration, tracking session attendance, gathering information, and providing sponsors lead retrieval, we have a full suite of solutions for you. Since 2005, Validar has been turning corporate events and trade shows into better business. Call 888-784-2929 or visit us at Validar.com.
And now back to Matt and his guest. Wait, let me get that piece out just right out of there. Okay.
Yeah, right. You know what's funny is, and this is, I think this is, hopefully Arden takes this as a compliment. There's two people in Seattle that when I see them, I immediately get very self-conscious about what I'm doing. One is a gal who has actually who is a wardrobe consultant. She's basically a personal stylist, and whenever I see her, I immediately am thinking, crap, what am I wearing? Is it the right colors? Is it the right season? Am I putting the things together right? Because I'm terrible at those things. And the other is Arden, because I'm like, okay, did I, am I making enough eye contact? Am I doing the right things? And I think she would probably be the first to say that, hey, the fact that you're thinking about that, the fact that you're aware that some of these things are right, some of these things you should be doing is half the battle. Thanks again for joining us today, Sales Pipeline Radio. You can catch all of our past episodes at salespipelineradio.com. If you want a replay of our conversation with Arden as well as any of our past guests, you can catch us there as well as on Google Play and the iTunes Store. Make sure you join us every Thursday at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific. Next week, I'm very excited. We've got Joe Chernoff, who is the VP of Marketing at Insight Squared. He is one of the preeminent content marketing strategists, content marketing thought leaders in all of B2B. We're going to talk about content marketing, the role it plays in sales and marketing. Next couple of weeks, we're going to feature some other great guests. We got Laura Shackelford coming up. She runs marketing at a company called Altify and just has a wide variety of experience in B2B marketing we're going to tap into. And then finally, in a couple of weeks, we've got Deb Calvert, who runs a company called Putting People First. And we're going to talk about the people side of business, including coaching, leadership development, training for your managers, and more. But want to get back to our guest today, Arden Kleiss, who is the what I consider the preeminent national business etiquette expert and the author of the new book, Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth. Speaking of spinach, Arden, let's talk about dining etiquette. I mean, I think that we're doing lots of work online and on our social channels, but then we actually get in front of each other. And I think the art of interactions in a dining and a sort of even a networking perspective is easy to get lost and to not think about what's right and what's wrong. Let's talk about dining and business rules. What are some tips to help make those meals more successful, but really kind of easier and more comfortable as well? Because that's part of the point, right? Is to have a good time while you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I suggest is when you're setting up a meeting with a client over a business meal at lunch or something, find out if they have any food restrictions, because you wouldn't want to take a gluten-free client to an Italian restaurant or your vegetarian customer to a steakhouse. So get that clear. And then one thing that I see often is people saying, well, where do you want to get lunch? Where do you want to have lunch? And that puts the onus on the client or the prospect or whoever you're inviting to the meal. So instead, say, there's a great vegetarian restaurant down the street, or I really like the Thai restaurant. Do you have a preference? And then make the reservation or, the arrangements and let the prospect or the person you're meeting with know the time that you're meeting. Another thing that's really great to do is to arrive early so you can be sure that you get a good table, you can seat your guest in a place where they get a view or they're facing out into the restaurant and they're not facing the bathroom or the kitchen or, some terrible place. You can also make payment arrangements. Because, Matt, when you sit down, and especially for a male client with a female person, you men, we love you for this, but you always want to pay. And so to avoid that awkward check grab, ask the waiter to put the check next to you, or you can have the maitre d' run your credit card as you're leaving the restaurant, and then you look really suave because you just, you sign it after your guest has left. One other thing, this is something that I see a lot that people really struggle with, and this is when you sit down to a really crowded table, like let's say you go to a conference or a meeting where there's a round table full of place settings, and you don't know which items belong to you and which belong to your neighbor. So just think of the acronym BMW, and we all want a BMW, right? So BMW, your bread, the B is bread, which is on the left. Your meal is in the middle, and the water or your glasses is on the right. So those are a few tips.
I have so many more questions, and Paul's already telling me we're starting to run out of time. He's using one hand for the number of minutes we have left, which stinks because I feel like we could go forever. I had a whole bunch of networking questions, but I'm going to ask you the one question that I feel like I always have that it just always comes up. When I go to meet someone, do I handshake? Do I give them a hug? How do I know which of those I'm supposed to do? Because I feel like the intersection is sometimes when you get those weird, awkward moments.
Right.
What's the rule around that?
Right, yeah. So the rule is if you're just meeting someone for the first time, definitely a handshake.
Yeah.
If it's someone that you've met and you're feeling like maybe you could a hug would be appropriate, ask first. Just say, hey, can I give you a hug? Or wait for them to make the move. But you can never go wrong with a handshake. It's always appropriate.
All right, that definitely helps me. I'm literally writing this down. I'm going to put it on an index card or something to remind me to do the right thing. All right, so I don't want to run out of time without talking more about the book. So talk more about the book, how that got started. Who's the book for? Who should be reading the book Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth?
Yeah, so really anyone who has ever wondered how to handle etiquette dilemmas in the workplace, like how to introduce someone whose name you've forgotten or what to say to a chatty coworker. So it doesn't matter if you're starting out in your career or you're a seasoned executive. Really, the book has information for everyone, from how to make a great first and lasting impression to global etiquette, how to interact with clients from other parts of the world. And, yeah, so there's something really that anyone can benefit from.
That's great. And where can people find, they can find it on Amazon, but what do you recommend people do if they're thinking, hey, the book sounds interesting, I want to learn more about Arden and what she's doing? What is the best place to go look for that?
Sure. Well, they can come to my website at CliceEtiquette.com. And Clice is a little challenging to spell, CLISE, and then etiquette.com. They can find the book on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. And, those are the places where they can find us.
Hey, Matt, can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
What's the proper etiquette to say? How do you spell etiquette?
Hey, there you go. Etiquette, ETIQUETTE. I know, it's a really hard...
Somewhere in there I lost a letter.
ETIQUETTE.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. No, not the easiest word to spell, but this stuff's important. I think as we sort of digitize a lot of our communication. And look, I'm wearing jeans on a Thursday. I love the fact that I can dress down a little bit in the office and at work. Mm-hmm. But there certainly are a number of etiquette best practices that still today differentiate you, still today can make you stand out. Impressions matter, relationships matter, your personal brand absolutely matters, whether you're doing it on the phone, an email, over dinner, giving a handshake or a hug. It all matters quite a bit. So really excited to have Arden Klice, on our show today. Definitely check out the book Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth, and check out our website at CliceEtiquette.com. If you want to hear more from Arden, if you want to hear a replay of this episode, you can check it out very soon at SalesPipelineRadio.com. If you want to check out any of our past episodes, we've had just some amazing guests across the sales and marketing world that have an impact across a lot of different areas of focus. You can find us at SalesPipelineRadio.com. You can always find us as well in on-demand podcasts at the Google Play and the iTunes Store. And definitely join us live every Thursday at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific. We have some great guests coming up in the next few weeks and into Q4. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you to Arden for joining us today, sharing some great feedback. Look forward to seeing you next week, seeing you online, seeing you on the podcast. This is Matt Hines from Hines Marketing. This has been Sales Pipeline Radio.
Well, you learned the right way to ask the right questions today on Sales Pipeline Radio with Matt Hines, Hines Marketing.